Welcome into the SBR Betting Roundtable for Wednesday, November 21st, alongside Donnie Rightside, Ian Cameron, Jeff Nadeau. I'm Drew Martin. Going to be touching on a little college basketball, the betting markets there, also college football and the NFL. It's rivalry week, plus best bets at the end. But first off, good morning to you in the Gonzaga shirt, Mr. Jeff Nadeau. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He's the big man on campus. Welcome into the show, Jeff.
Welcome in, Drew. Thanks for having me. Always appreciate the roundtable. I want to wish all the listeners a very happy Thanksgiving. One of the best holidays of the year. Looking forward to it, Drew.
Absolutely. Well said. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. If you're watching in the United States, make sure to enjoy the time with your family, friends, giving thanks. If you're outside the United States, always take a second to kind of reflect and be thankful for what we have. We all have to remember that from time to time. Well said, Jeff. His partner in crime, Donnie Rightside. Follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Donnie, welcome in. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Looks like a great week of football setting up. Some interesting games, to say the least, on Thanksgiving Day that we can cheer in and root for as we grab an extra slice of pie before we take another long, deep nap over the weekend. But there's some good stuff to talk about. Let's keep this red-hot streak going of plays of the week on the roundtable going. Last couple weeks cashed in some nice plays in the NFL. Some decent shots this weekend. We'll see if we can run that tab again and pay some bills over here.
All right, good stuff, Donnie. Excited to see hear your opinions in the NFL, college football, and best bet. Last up, Ian Cameron. Follow him on Twitter at Babano. Just got done with the Ice Guys show I saw, Ian. Did you get enough of a break? Are you ready to go for the roundtable?
Break is for wimps. I don't need any breaks. Let's go. I'm ready for the next show. 1 minute after that one ended. I'm ready to rock and roll as always on the round table. Looking forward to it, and I echo the sentiments of Donnie and Big Man. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the United States this week. It's a great holiday. Ours in Canada is the second Monday of October. We enjoy it. We have football on that Thanksgiving too, CFL football, and of course the Monday Nighter in the NFL. It's football, family, friends, fun, and turkey. How do you not love Thanksgiving? So happy Thanksgiving to everyone south of the border.
Well said, Ian. And Ian, just real quick, it's the CFL Grey Cup right now, right? It's this weekend?
Yeah, it's this weekend, Ottawa and Calgary in the Grey Cup. ESPN2 in the States for those of you wanting to watch it.
Okay, any quick thoughts out there for the listeners if somebody's wanting to put a bet down?
Quick thoughts are that the Calgary Stampeders could be the 1990s Buffalo Bills reincarnated if they don't win this Grey Cup. Calgary will be going to the Grey Cup game for the third straight year. They lost the previous 2 seasons. And Bo Levi Mitchell, you want to be the next Jim Kelly? Then go ahead and lose this Grey Cup too. Go ahead. So that's basically what he's going to try to avoid here in this game for the Calgary Stampeders. I actually do think they get off the schneid. They've circled this season like, hey, we're sick of losing in the Grey Cup. This is our 3rd year in a row to get it done. Calgary lost outright as favorites of more than a touchdown each of the last 2 Grey Cups. They lost to Ottawa 2 years ago, laying more than a touchdown. They lost to Toronto. Remember the Snow Bowl, the Grey Cup last year? Hell, Big Man, I remember, was watching that game. Calgary-Toronto last year. Lots of snow. Calgary blows a big lead. Toronto comes back and wins outright with Calgary laying more than a touchdown. This year, we're seeing a discount. Calgary's only laying 4.5 in this game against Ottawa. Ottawa's a good team, good offense, I think a suspect defense, and they feasted on a weak East Division. The West Division was top to bottom. I think this is the time for Calgary to get it done. I'll lay the 4.5 with Calgary.
All right, liking the favorite there. Big Man, let's get right into college basketball, man. There was a big one last night, Auburn versus Duke. Watching that, Auburn kind of just got a little bit out-talented, in my opinion. Duke looks really good, man. Anything on that game? And also, what's kind of tickling your fancy on the CBB betting boards today?
Yeah, I thought Auburn fighting back was impressive. I mean, Harper, none of those guys played well in the first half. They, kind of kept the lead, to manageable, and they were able to kind of make a run. But it's going to take a perfect game to beat Duke. You look at tonight, Gonzaga. If Duke can beat Gonzaga and Kentucky, that would be, they're basically being 2 of the top 3 teams in a matter of 2 weeks. That's quite impressive. Can Gonzaga beat them? Yeah, I'm sure they can. I mean, they're going to give them the biggest test, I'd imagine. Gonzaga has a ton of talent. It's a shame that Tilly won't play. If Tilly played, I definitely would actually pick Gonzaga to beat Duke, but he's not going to play. It's a question of, can Duke find a way? They love to get out in transition. I'm going to guess Mark Few is going to figure out a way to prevent that. They're going to have to do more in the half court. Obviously, Gonzaga's a bit more talented, longer, better defensively. We'll see how Duke handles that. But I'll be honest, and I'm sure both everyone here would agree. Betting against Duke right now is a large proposition, but I will tell you this: I think Gonzaga is one of the 5 teams, to me, that can really win the national title. I think this is one of Mark Few's best teams. I just wish they had Killy and Tilly. That would be a bit better of a matchup, I think, for Gonzaga than right now. But Hachimura's got to play well. He's got to guard Zion Williamson here. As far as the card today, I'm taking several days off from college, but as far as what I'm looking at, I would have my eye on maybe some of these like South Dakota State overs, that kind of stuff. Mike Dahm dropped 40 yesterday in a win. I believe they have Colorado State, so that could be a high-scoring game. But you're looking at some of these numbers now. St. Louis, I was very high on coming into the season. They're a favorite today. Okay, last year, you're big, you like getting points with St. Louis, but are they ready to lay points is the big question. Look at their first game of the season that really mattered. They were able to cover, but it was as an underdog. Now you're laying 5 against Pittsburgh in Brooklyn. Remember about Pittsburgh, this is a group that, is young, but they have a new coach, and that's a lot of points for St. Louis to lay. They're a better team, but are they a favorite yet? I'm not sure.
Guys, we could get right into college football. Donnie, we got Oklahoma versus West Virginia. The Sooners just gave up 40 points to Kansas. We all know about the Kansas football team here. I think that's very alarming. Obviously, the defense has really been struggling all year. Plus, West Virginia off the loss to Oklahoma State, catching 2.5 at home. I think West Virginia's the side here. How are you viewing the Sooners and Mountaineers here?
It's a tough one. I mean, winner goes to the Big 12 title game, so lots on the line for both of these teams. And usually when you're coming down to these games where, winner takes all, so to speak, or moves on or plays for something really important like going to the Big 12, or maybe even Oklahoma playing for a little bit more than that, hoping to maybe sneak in to the national championship picture. And then I see a line out there of 84 as a total. 84 in this football game. But you do have to take a couple steps back and say, you know what? These teams average high 40s, close to 50 points a game. So what's going to stop or slow them down? There are a little bit of outside factors laying into this. Number one, maybe these kids will play a little bit tighter because of how much is actually on the line. We're not playing Kansas State. It's not Bedlam where there's like one guy on defense or a 7-on-7. There will be points in this football game, but there will also be consequences that maybe these coaches will be thinking about with that there's 40 seconds left to go in the half and they're on their own 30. Maybe they're up 6 or 7 points. They take it to the half because they're getting the football in the second half to start. Whereas in the middle of Big 12 play, let's just go out and win a Heisman and just start throwing dots down the field and see what happens. Maybe they play it a little bit closer to the hill. But taking a look at overall in this football game, sidewise perspective, it's hard to go against Oklahoma just because of how dynamic their offense is. But there's something to be said about a home field advantage and playing a little bit of defense, which I think West Virginia can actually play. If I'm looking at this game right now, similar to the Monday Night Football game where it had a 62 over, and the Sharps are just saying, that's way too many points, that's ridiculous, just take the under. Both of these teams can shoot it out, but you're also looking in L.A., they moved that game from out of Mexico back to Los Angeles, nice 60-degree night, no windy conditions, and played on a pretty good surface. This is going to be a little bit different for these kids, mid-30s temperature, 7 to 8 mile-an-hour winds. All it takes for an over 84, I talked to Jeff yesterday, is, maybe the quarterback, the ball slips a little bit out of his hand. Wide receiver's wide open, but the ball goes through his hands. Or maybe you're going in for the winning touchdown and you're wearing sleeves as opposed to not wearing sleeves, and that ball gets knocked loose and you don't end up scoring a touchdown. We're not talking about 56, 64, 65 points. You're talking about mid-80s, 85 points to catch this total. Might be thinking a little bit under just because the cold weather might play a little bit of havoc here.
Yeah, I can see under as well, being the side. Ian, what are you thinking? It sounded like Donnie sidewise was kind of leaning towards Oklahoma. Don't want to put words in his mouth. We can come back to you, Donnie. But I kind of just view West Virginia as having the stronger defense, like Donnie touched on, and can go punch for punch with Oklahoma. I'm not saying they have the better offense. How do you view it from a side perspective?
I could only take Oklahoma here, but I was hoping for something a little bit better than what's out there. And again, it's already moved up too. It's 2.5. It was 1.5 early on in the week. Now they're 2.5-point road favorites. I just don't know Oklahoma's offense. And to me, I used to think to myself, let's always try to lean with and take the team with the better defense. It doesn't always work that way now. You need to have the better offense in a lot of these games. Look at the NFL. Who's winning these games? Who's covering these numbers? The teams with the better offense, the teams with the better offensive schemes, the teams with the better offensive-minded coaches. That's who's winning and covering in the NFL. Here, I mean, Oklahoma to me has got the edges in all of those categories. I know West Virginia probably is a little bit better on the defensive side of the football than Oklahoma, and certainly the stats bear that out. They're giving up 0.4 yards per play less. They're giving up about 40-some yards per game less defensively than Oklahoma. There's no question I trust West Virginia's defense a little bit more, but I don't know if I trust them enough to stop Kyler Murray and this freight train of offense that Oklahoma's bringing on a weekly basis. I mean, you look at the last 5 games that they've won: 52, 51, 51, 48, 55. Let's not forget they hung 45 points against Texas when Texas was playing really good defense at that time, even though they lost that game, and when they were a lot healthier, Texas, on defense than they are right now. And Oklahoma still hung 45 on them. They've trended over the total 7 in a row. There's going to be math guys. There's going to be numbers guys, just like they did with Rams Chiefs. Say, let's bet under because this total's just too high. It's a 63, 63 and a half in the NFL with that Rams game. It's too high. Let's bet it under. Oh, this total's 84 in this game. It's too high. Bet it under. And I know weather, cold, could be that. Could be an issue with that. I can't do it, though. From a totals perspective, I can only look over the total. You look at it, 95 points last Oklahoma game, 95 points against Oklahoma State, 97 points against Texas Tech, 79 points against TCU. The one under was 65 against K-State, and K-State's one of the worst offenses, one of the most anemic, slower-paced offenses you'll ever see in college football. So, yeah, it's over or nothing for me. Even at 84, I could easily see this game getting into the 90s, and I lean Oklahoma, but I was hoping for a better number. Oklahoma and over is where I'd go.
And this game is Friday, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Big man, how are you seeing the Sooners and Mountaineers?
Yeah, I think both guys make good points, and Donnie and I spoke about this game on the show yesterday, and he's right. I mean, when you're running a total in the 80s, one little thing goes wrong, a drop ball, let's say Dana Holgerson gets going and goes for it, 4th and 2, and he runs a stupid play and inside the 12 or 10, and you get stopped up. Plays like that, but these offenses are so high paced and so quick. And you look at whenever West Virginia has faced, I mean, they've largely faced a lot of teams that aren't as explosive. They haven't faced the Oklahoma yet, but you look at against any other team that runs high pressure, high intensity games, quick pace. I mean, they got shredded by Texas, got shredded by Oklahoma State. The only reason Texas Tech only scored 34 is because Jet Duffy played 3 quarters in that game, but even he scored 34 against West Virginia. Oklahoma's the best offense in the country. The cold weather could be interesting, and I'm doing more and trying to find some trends on that and that kind of stuff. I think largely most of it has to do with wind and things like that. Wind and precipitation won't be a problem here. Listen, I don't want to sit on my hands with this one. I've seen these stories too many times before, where you think, well, maybe this total's a bit high or something like that, and we see 90 points. Both these teams average 45, 50 points a game. I hate to be rudimentary here, but I just don't see much in the way of defense. I think it's a shootout. We go back and forth, and I think both teams will be fine with that. 2 great quarterbacks here. I think this will be a terrific game. It's Friday night.
You can record this dialogue. You can record this dialogue that we're having with the total for this game and just use it for a bunch of NFL games and a bunch of college football games these days. These totals are getting astronomically high, and yet you're still basically got your heart or your hand on your heart the entire game trying to bet these games under the total. It's a heart attack waiting to happen. They're almost like you need a couple of miracles. You need a couple of turnovers in order to keep these games under the total. That's 2018 football we're in right now. It is all geared to offense, and even these high totals in the NFL, they're getting crushed over. And they're going over these high totals in the NFL. They're going over a lot of these high totals in the college football ranks. Look at Oklahoma State, West Virginia last weekend, soared over the total. So it's
the only difference here. The only difference here, and Donnie will mention this, is that you're playing with 35, 37 degree weather. Every other total that we've seen, you're mentioning the Oklahoma State and the Texas and those kind of games. They were all played in warmer weather environments. That's the only concern you have on this total. And look, again, this is a massive public side. I mean, everybody and their mother is going to be on this, but that hasn't really mattered. All these totals, whether they're high or not. You look at last week, the Oklahoma State game 2 weeks ago, 79. 77.5. But now you're getting into the mid 80s here. This is the highest total yet, and it's the coldest place yet. That's the only reservation I would have, and I think Donnie would agree with me.
Donnie, anything to finish it up?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you try to take a look at some outlying situations in here. I mean, you can't not look at West Virginia and what they do at home on the season. I mean, they have absolutely bludgeoned teams on offense and played really good defense. So I don't know how that's going to hold up because Oklahoma, not that bad of a road team as well when it stacks up and you look at what they've done on the season. I just like the team where I think I'm going to get a little bit better benefit on defense, and why not? I mean, West Virginia is a home dog at this point. If that line goes to 3, you can easily see some sort of shootout, or even at the end of the ball games, how many times do we see it in a game with 84 points here? Let's fast forward to the end of the football game. It's 41-40 with a touchdown scored by Oklahoma. Are they on the road going to say, sure, let's just take this to overtime and see what happens? Or are they going to say, I'm going to go for it here because I need 1 or 2 yards to actually win this football game and put myself in the Big 12 championship? You can look at that as well in these short lines, because if the game is going to be played in a high-scoring shootout, nobody wants to be left holding the bag. Last man with the ball wins. And if you're going to go for 2 late in the game with 30 seconds to go, as opposed to kick an extra point to push, that might help you out on the side as well.
Good point there, Donnie. Guys, we got another big one in the Big Ten, seeing Ohio State as an underdog at home. Haven't seen that in a while. We got game number 161, 162 Saturday, 12 noon Eastern on Fox. Michigan laying 4.5 at Ohio State, 56 the total. Big man, you got any strong opinions here on this big rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of had the same sentiment on Michigan really since I knew this game was going to happen. My question for Jim Harbaugh this year was this team, and could you take this team to the Final Four? It was the best team you're going to have. It's the best defense you've had. You finally have a competent quarterback. And in seeing what I've seen out of Ohio State, I just don't really have a lot of reason to think that anything's going to change. This team all year has had defensive issues. You look at, any game recently. I mean, give up 49 to Purdue, 31 to Nebraska. You gave up 51 points last week to Maryland, the team that had just lost their quarterback. I mean, we know how poor Tyrell Pigrome has been at times. This is just a defense, I think, kind of lost in translation right now. And you're facing an offense that, A, is very good, a defense that is probably the best in the country. The only knock is Michigan's on the road, and they're 1-3 against the spread away from home. But we have to remember in those games, a lot of them, they were laying big numbers. I mean, Michigan State, they're laying 7. Northwestern laying 14.5. They laid 28 last week. So, again, 4.5 is a bit different. But again, I'm sure Donnie will bring this up, so I'm not going to lament on it. It does look almost too good to be true. Ohio State stinks, all that kind of stuff. Look, at the end of the day, I think Michigan's a much better football team. I'm looking for them to finally wake up and win this game. And I feel like as a unit, they just seem like a different football team this year. Defensively, they're I think, tops in the country. I don't think that's even close. But will Winovich play? Guys like that, I think it's safe to say they will. If you know anything about those kind of guys, I think Shea Patterson sets them over the top. They haven't had a Shea Patterson over the last couple of seasons. This isn't Jake Rudock or Wilton Spate. This is a pretty good quarterback, and I think he's going to take the reins. I think the run game will be big. I just think Michigan's a better football team. I think they win, 28-17. I think they really hold Ohio State in check here.
Okay, like Michigan to win and cover. Good stat there, 1-3 ATS road record for Michigan. Donnie, what are you thinking about Ohio State, Michigan, and who do you think has the better quarterback in this game?
I probably would lean towards Shea Patterson. I just think he does a lot more. I think Dwayne Haskins, could fit to lose like 20, 30, 40, or 50 pounds and probably would be a better quarterback back there and be a little bit more athletic. So I would lean towards Shea Patterson as a playmaker as opposed to Haskins out there. Haven't we seen these Ohio State quarterbacks before? Ooh, Terrell Pryor. Yeah, how'd that work out? And the other kid had been slipping my mind a couple years ago who had like 1 or 2 good football games, and we're talking about taking him top 10 overall.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's Cardell Jones, was it?
Cardell Jones, yeah.
Cardell Jones, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I've seen this done this before, and it's a very rudimentary offense built off read option, and any quarterback that sits back there and claps for a ball to be sent back to him there as the snap count, I'm gonna downgrade that just a little bit. But getting back to the football game here, haven't we been here, done this before? Michigan opens up at 3. Ooh, looks too good to be true. Now sitting at 4.5 and 5. What happens if the game creeps up to 6? You're asking Michigan to go on the road in one of the toughest environments in college football to play. And oh yeah, this isn't like, we won 9 out of the last 10 against Ohio State. We own this football team. No, you can't beat this football team. You haven't beat this football team. That's a major mental hurdle and almost a house of horrors on spots and stuff not going your way and bad bounces and injuries during football games. Taking the contrarian view in this year isn't bad, because when you look at Ohio State and what they've done at home, correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't been beaten at home. They do their once a year. We got our ass kicked on the road when nobody thought we should actually get our ass kicked. They've escaped football games that they maybe shouldn't have escaped, but they're at home. If they're going to get close to a touchdown, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to lean toward Ohio State in this football game, because Michigan's going to be tight in this football game. I don't care what the running back says. We guarantee a win. Don't get it twisted. They're sitting back there looking back at the past archives going, God damn, this team kicks our ass. And we got to beat them in their house. Maybe a little bit different if this game was played at Michigan. I still think Ohio State's going to treat them like their little brother in this game. And, if they don't have to win the football game, keep it close. Michigan plays good defense. Maybe Ohio State slows it down. 23-20 Michigan. Ohio State gets the cake.
All right. Liking the home dog here. Ian, what about you? What are you thinking? 12 noon Saturday, Ohio State, Michigan.
Well, that's the concern. And I think I like the setup matchup-wise for Michigan here. I don't like the number at all. And it smells bad to me. To take Michigan here, 4.5. I mean, Urban Meyer, what's he been, an underdog 4 times in the past at Ohio State? 4-0 against the spread, and I think won all of those games in outright fashion as an underdog too. I mean, that's the track record you're betting against here with Urban Meyer in the underdog role. Problem is, I don't think this Ohio State defense is very good. And if Michigan keeps a balanced attack on the ground and through the air, they're going to move the ball against Ohio State, or at least in theory should. I mean, this is a bad, poor tackling Ohio State defense. They've been burned for big plays. Maryland, of all teams, ends up shredding this team with a limited passing game in Terrell Pagrom. I mean, he tried, but he didn't really have a good day throwing the ball. It was all on the ground. That doesn't bode well facing this Michigan team. Not at all. But we're talking about Michigan on the road having to step up and beat a quality foe, and that hasn't been easy for Michigan. This is still the next best team outside of Notre Dame that they've played on the road this season, and we know how the Notre Dame game ended for this Michigan team. So, again, I think Michigan's got matchup edges. I haven't liked Ohio State for weeks now. I think something's not right with this team. You see Urban Meyer always holding his head on the sideline when something big happens, something bad happens to his team. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but you're looking at Ohio State with a 1-6 against the spread slide coming into this game. They weren't underdogs, though, in any of those games. They are now. I think Michigan can win this game. I think they will win this game, but I'm getting the real bad feeling in the pit of my stomach that I would want to lay 4.5 here with Michigan. And that Urban Meyer underdog track record can't be ignored. He hasn't just been good. He's been absolutely fantastic in the underdog role. So it's a Michigan lean for me, but that's all it's going to be. Not even close to something I'm going to get to a betting window with a wager with.
All right, guys. Hey, Jeff, question for you. If Ohio State wins out, do you think they make the playoffs?
No, I don't.
Get it.
Donnie,
They absolutely
what do you think?
make it. 100% Ohio State will be in there with all the money they generate. No question about it.
Well, I guess, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Notre Dame ain't losing, so they're in. Alabama's in and Clemson's in. You look at Ohio State, I mean, listen, I just can't put a team in that lost by 29 to Purdue.
They've done it before, though. There's a track record of Ohio State getting there. There's a track record of Ohio State winning, big when they get slapped.
But again, I don't think that Oklahoma doesn't bring in a ton. Kyler Murray angle. I think, from the looks of what they do, it's a dynamic, fun off. And I'm not saying you're wrong, Donnie. You probably are right. But, I think another thing, you're not going to put Wazoo in, but I think their national profile's been terrific. You're right, Donnie, and that's a shame, probably. I don't know that they will, because I don't think they're going to beat Michigan. I truly believe this team is different, and I just think we have something chronically wrong with Ohio State. And I think we're kind of just forgetting it. This has not been a one-week thing with this group. This has been for a long time. This isn't the same team. I think they've clearly been kind of somewhat affected by some of the stuff going on off the field with their coach and all that kind of stuff. I get that that they're still in the profile, I guess you could say, but they've had these chronic things that have continued throughout the season, and they've not really been fixed. This team is still really bad defensively. Haskins has definitely gotten back to just kind of a normal quarterback. They don't have that same pizzazz. But again, A win like this, sure, huge. And Donnie's right. They're getting points. They're not laying points. Let me ask you something, Donnie. I'd be interested to hear your opinion on this. Someone asked me earlier in the week what I would set this line at. Now, keep in mind, this is still Ohio State. This is still a team that, they're not 6-6. They're at home, and they've owned Michigan. What would you have set this line at?
This line this week, I actually thought it would be 3. I thought a fair line would have been Michigan minus
right?
3. No, Michigan minus 3. I thought it was going to be a fair line in this one. Yeah. I think because honestly, I think Michigan's a better overall football team. I really do. But you're putting these kids in an environment which is a wild, crazy, anything can happen, 100,000 people screaming down at you. And Michigan is not the team that's going to air raid you and say, you know what, we're going to come out and just take your heart rate away. They're going to do what they do. They're going to run their fullbacks and, into the line of scrimmage. They're going to play really good defense. They're going to hold it down, wait for you to make that mistake. And that just doesn't play well if you're going to, like in Oklahoma covering like a 6 or 6.5. So, yeah, you know what? They'll get after it on offense. But I can just see this game. Can we all see it? 14-10, midway through the second quarter, 17-14 type game into the third. I can just see the way it plays out here. It's just the MO of both these ball clubs.
Drew?
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it going up and down the field either, kind of leaning towards the under. But BMSC, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out a comment by one of the chatters here. Someone's bringing up the Higdon guarantee. I initially, when I heard about this, I heard the thing of he guaranteed it. I thought it was just one of those things in the locker room where he's like, he made it a point to go to a reporter and do it. Let's remember, he was doing a press conference. He was asked a question, do you think you're going to beat Ohio State? What is he supposed to say? No, I fucking think we stink. We're not going to win. He is the captain. Okay, when I first saw the story, I thought, fuck, man, this never works out. Why'd you do that? Then I actually watched the video, and I watched that he was in a press conference setting and was asked. And the way he was asked was more of, hey, as a leader and as a captain, do you think you're going to win this game? Of course they think you're going to win the game. What would you say? Drew, you played football, Donnie. You played
That's
football.
true. You can't say you're going to lose.
No, what are you
And
going to say?
If you're on the opposite side and you saw that from the other team and you're saying like, well, if they ask me, you think you guys win Sunday? Absolutely. Yeah. Ooh, what?
Sure.
Absolutely.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation. I get it, BMOC. Guys, we got NFL coming up next. First, it's kind of disrespectful to degenerates out there to call this a degenerate special. Got to call it a get-back game. We got Mountain West, 10 p.m. Eastern kick on ESPN Saturday night. 181, 182, Utah State at Boise State, 67.5 the total. Boise laying 2.5 on the blue turf. Ian, could start off with you north of the border. Any strong opinions here? Utah State, Boise State, good one Saturday night.
Well, absolutely good one because there's a lot at stake. It's two good football teams. It's the Mountain Division in the Mountain West on the line, and winner faces Fresno State in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. And if it's Boise, it means it's going to be 2 years in a row those teams would play in the Mountain West title game. But Utah State might have a little something to say about that. Now, it is in Boise. Boise laying 2.5 at home. But I remember thinking Fresno could handle Boise on the blue turf. Fresno didn't handle Boise on the blue turf. Boise State got the job done in that game. However, from an offensive perspective, this is probably as good as Boise State's defense will have seen all season long. And I still do have some concerns about Boise State on the defensive side of the ball. I know they've played really good defense the last 3 weeks. I don't know how they've done it, to be honest with you, with all the injuries they've suffered on the defensive side of the football. There's a lot of key cogs out. David Moa out, Pierce in the secondary. Their best tackler, Wimpy at linebacker, out for the season. All injuries, season-ending injuries. And yet Boise State's managed to get through it and play solid defense in the last few weeks. Let's see if they can play solid defense, though, here in this game. This is Jordan Love and this Utah State offense, which has been absolutely terrific. How about 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this season for Love? He's been absolutely terrific at the quarterback spot. This up-tempo Utah State offense has been great. They have a tremendous running back in Darwin Thompson. He's been absolutely terrific as well. They've got a tremendous group of receivers as well, led by Ron Quavion Tarver. I mean, absolutely fantastic. Utah State offensively going to test this Boise State defense, I think, and be able to have success moving the ball against them. I know their defense has cobbled together good performances in spite of some key injuries, but I think they're going to be hard-pressed to shut down and neutralize Utah State in this game. But Boise State's going to move the ball, I think. You saw Utah State's defense. They've given up points to some mediocre competition the last couple of weeks. Maybe they're disinterested because, they've had this first place showdown. Basically, they're locked into it a long time ago, but it's not like Utah State's defense has been great the last couple of weeks. They gave up 24 to San Jose State, gave up 24 to Colorado State, and were very fortunate to win last week. Brett Rippon is going to move the ball in this game. I'm going to look over more than anything else in this game. I'm going to stay out of it from a side perspective. It's a high total, 67.5. I stress you to check the weather. This is Boise on a Saturday night in November. We don't know what it's going to be. I would check on that first, make sure there's no wind. Wind's obviously my biggest fear. But if there's no wind in the forecast, I think you're going to see two offenses trade points, and I'd look over the 67.5 here.
Good breakdown, Ian. Yeah, just 2 weeks ago, Boise handled Fresno State at home on the blue turf. Now, you bring up the point Love at quarterback. Utah State can really move it, won 10 in a row? I mean, they haven't had as tough a schedule as Boise, in my opinion. But, Jeff, what are you thinking here, Boise versus Utah State?
Yeah, look, I've been eyeing this game for weeks. I've been telling people Utah State is a fraud, and I believe it. This team has not played a competent group in a long time. And look, Boise State, a little bit more pedigree. They're a good football team, a great quarterback, great weapons. They're at home. And look, they were in this situation 2 weeks ago. I remember everyone and their mother, Fresno State, Fresno State, Fresno State. Yeah, get the fuck out of here with that. Boise State came in and beat the hell out of them in the second half. That's what good teams do. And you look at this Utah State team. I mean, let's get real here. Who has this team played since week one? No one. And the only good defense they faced, they almost lost in Wyoming. Okay? This team stunk last week. And I don't really care what they did against San Jose. Look, I'm impressed by their offense. I think Matt Wells is a terrific coach. I think his trajectory will continue to get him higher and higher in the coaching pedigree. But at the end of the day, this team has not played a competent opponent in a long, long, long time. And now they're going to go on the road with a lot of pressure. Teams like this usually get up and fold like a bad pair of pants, baby. Give me Boise State. They will win this football game. They have a new lease on life. The only thing I'm concerned about is Brian Harsin. I've seen him in games like this really fold, but a lot of that was against San Diego State, a team that they've had trouble beating over the last couple years. This ain't San Diego State. Utah State's avoided SDSU. They've avoided all the big boys in the Mountain West until now. I think the pressure will be too much for them. I think the game's a lot like last week for Utah State. They aren't going to be as lucky to escape this time. Colorado State is a bad football team. I mean, you barely were able to get by in that one. Second straight road game, pressure. Give me Boise.
Yeah, Donnie, Big Man brings up a lot of points. I mean, in the last 9 weeks, the strongest team Utah State's played is maybe Air Force, I think you can make the argument for. I don't know. How are you viewing? You think they're a fraud?
I don't think they're a fraud, but the number actually scares me a little bit if you're looking to back, Boise at home, because you're getting another one of those, well, what am I missing here? Utah State, I don't know too much about them other than their record is good. They haven't beat very many teams. So why is this line going to open up around a 3 and then dip down under 3 again when you figure one of the bigger home field advantages in the Mountain West is up on the Smurf turf and how well Boise State tends to play and is used to playing in big football games out there in this conference? That's the one thing that catches me. But the one I can't quite understand like the 67.5 in this ball game, because I'm going to get back to it again. We're not playing in mid-October at New Mexico in front of 30 fans where nobody's going to respond or have any pressure and nothing matters in that environment. If you meet a little bit of resistance, because Utah State is running roughshod, okay, over San Jose State, Hawaii, New Mexico, UNLV, Air Force. These teams don't play any defense whatsoever. If you meet a little bit of resistance on the road, I mean, I hate to take a look at Wyoming, who doesn't really play an up-tempo type game, but that's a formidable defense that can play a little bit at times. That game ends up 24-16 in that ball game. 67.5 in a winner-take-all game just seems to me, again, we're at the 50-yard line and it's 4th and 3 when you're playing Wyoming. You say, or New Mexico, they suck. Let's just go for it because they're not going to do anything anyway if they stop us. But in this ball game, maybe you pin the other team back on the 5-yard line and make them go the entire length of the field. It just seems like a lot of points to me, even though I do know, again, Utah State, when they play bad competition, can beat them up. But this isn't bad competition out here. These two teams are going to have to go back and forth, and coaches make decisions based on winning the conference, not just saying, hell, we're already up 31 points. Why not just go for it down here? Maybe if you're inside the 10, like we see in the Mountain West a lot, on 4th and 1 or 1.5, Utah State goes, hell, we'll just go for it. We're playing Air Force. We're playing New Mexico, Hawaii, San Jose State. Just bury them right now, when now you might take the points to retake the lead as opposed to going for the touchdown. 67.5 is a lot in a game. And Ian brings up the same point. Look, Boise State's used to being cold. So is Utah State. I don't care. Throw that game in the low 30s. Somebody's dropping a big pass in that ball game.
Yeah, good points there. I mean, a competitive game could go back and forth, kind of punt football, just play to kind of not lose the game. Could see that there. Big man, anything in conclusion?
They're going to move the football and they're going to score some points. But when you're playing in these games where if it's 21-21, it means a lot for your football team to take that lead, not just go for it because, San Jose State can't drive 90 yards down the field,
Absolutely. Big man, go ahead, man. Finish it off in college football.
Keep in mind also, I was reading some things. Matt Wells is also discussing that, their top corner is probably out in this game and that their secondary is quote unquote thin. So again, I think Donnie though makes some good points. In games like this, I feel like that it's just kind of pressure's turned up. Everything's just so much more magnified.
You're not running fake punts in your own territory to change it up in a close game like you just would admit because that you're so much better than the other team. I think Jeff brings up another good point there. That's coaches are going to coach to win this football game, not say let's run a double reverse pass because it's really fun and we can kill this team.
Good points there, guys. Good college football discussion. We got NFL. About 20 minutes left in the show. Seattle at Carolina, 1 p.m. Eastern kick on Sunday, 47.5. Good one to shop around. Use SBR odds. Make sure if you're looking to bet Carolina, you get the 3. And if you're looking to bet Seattle, you get the 3.5 because they're both out there right now. 47.5 the total. Ian, you want to start us off in the NFL? Any opinion here on Seattle, Carolina?
Yeah, Carolina. Bad Carolina. Very bad Carolina. They let me down last week against the Detroit Lions. So I was not very happy to see that. Detroit ends up beating them 20-19. People giving Ron Rivera all kinds of shit for going for 2. That doesn't matter to me too much. I can live with him trying to go for 2, to be honest with you, in that spot. No big deal. But they just didn't get their offense going in that game. It was very surprising. A couple costly mistakes they made in that game. And Detroit, I give them credit, got the win. It feels, though, like if I jump off Carolina here in this game, might be making a mistake because, Carolina's back home now. And 2 straight losses now against Pittsburgh and Detroit, 2 frustrating losses. Hell, maybe this team's not as good as we thought they were. I know their secondary is still very capable of being picked apart. That is definitely a concern. I don't love this secondary by any stretch of the imagination, but I did think the offense and the offensive line were starting to get going a little bit prior to the last 2 games. But Pittsburgh, they struggled to move the ball. Detroit, they struggled to move the ball in that game as well. Can you do it now back home against the Seattle defense? Well, in theory, you should. Because Seattle's defense still, to me, if you can get things going a little bit against them. This is not the Seahawks defense of old. Seattle, you've got them traveling now. It is extra time for Seattle. They played Thursday night last week against Green Bay. They're coming east for an early start time, but they do get a few extra days to get ready for this game. But Carolina's been a tremendous home team. You can't deny how good they've been down there in Charlotte. I think at 3, even though Carolina did me wrong last week, I'm still leaning toward the Panthers side this week. I think they can get it done here against Seattle.
Big man, what do you like in Seahawks Panthers?
Yeah, I think it's stone cold obvious what's wrong with the Panthers. They cannot win on the road, and that's just evident. I mean, they're very good at home, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. But I have the same concerns about this group that Ian has. I don't know how good their defense is. I think the back end is pretty poor. It's always been a poor point of contention with them, and they don't really seem to do anything about it. We know they're going to score points. I think Russell Wilson can make some things happen as well. I would probably lean Panthers just because they've had so much success at home. Always a tough trip to go across the country if you're a Seahawk team. They're all generally better at home. I'm kind of looking at this total at 47.5, and I think we see both teams get into the mid-20s here. Maybe like a 31-24 type of game, something like that. I think the Seahawks will put some points on the board with that run offense. I think, I'd be honest, thinking they can make some big plays as well against that secondary. But I think that's really what, and I think Donnie, when he speaks, will agree. There's one issue with Carolina. They can't seem to go on the road and win. They're at home here, though.
Donnie, do you agree?
Yeah, to me, I'm building the case. So now I'm prefacing that by saying Cam Newton's going to be healthy, and I think he's going to be healthy and ready to go in this football game. Seattle is a tough environment to go play in when you play them at home because they jump the snap every single time because you can't hear your own snap count. Not the case on the road. When we look at this and another one of those matchups that we like, West Coast team coming east, and let's just take a look about what the facts are this year with the Carolina Panthers. Beat Dallas at home, beat Cincinnati at home, beat the Giants at home, beat Baltimore at home, beat Tampa Bay at home. There's a pattern there. It's a really good home football team that plays well in front of their home crowd. Let's take a look at the Seattle Seahawks. Lost at Denver, lost at Chicago. Absolutely got stone cold lucky to beat Arizona in their game back at the end of September. You played Oakland, it says on the road. Not a true road game. You beat a quitting Oakland team over in London. That doesn't count to me. You go to Detroit, that's a nice win. That's one winning football game, and you lost to the LA Rams a couple weeks back. No shame in doing that, but let's be real. One real road win on the season. Seattle doesn't play all that well. Now, when you like to get these styles matched up against each other, Russell Wilson plays street ball better than anybody out there. Is there a linebacking core that you would not want to go against if you're Russell Wilson than the one that you're going to go against this week? Russell Wilson's not going to run around and make plays against Luke Kuechly and that super speed at linebacker. And you have to exploit a secondary. Jeff brings up a pretty good point. I don't overly like Carolina's secondary, but did I miss Julio Jones on Seattle Seahawks this weekend going deep and beating them? I didn't see that. So if you're just going to think you're going to run read option at those three linebackers where Luke Kuechly knows exactly what's coming every single play, that's not going to work. It's a really cheap line. I understand people say, oh, man, Carolina stinks. They lost a couple games in a row. Saw them last week. They couldn't beat Detroit. Completely different home team. They're going to be up and ready. And getting back to the game last week with the 2-point conversion, 100% agree with Riverboat Ron in that spot. Is there a better 2-point conversion offense from the 2-yard line than Cam Newton running read option back there? You have to go for that play.
Hey, they give him all the praise in the world. They give him all the praise in the world if he makes that. But because they missed it, that's a bad decision. Come on.
It was a great. I would go for it every time. If you're an opposing team or opposing team's fan base, and you see Carolina's lining up to go for two, you're like, oh my God, like they're gonna run some 6-option, triple option nonsense where Cam's gonna walk in and show the Superman right now. But he missed a wide open guy. It was Cam's fault though.
Donnie, great stats about Seattle on the road struggling. But they do get extra time to prepare in this one, playing, I believe, last Thursday. So, 2 or 3 extra days to prepare. How much do you factor that in overall in your NFL handicapping, and especially in this game?
It helps. Look, extra rest in the NFL is everything. But the old adage that it is extremely hard to go on the road in the NFL and any team you play to beat them. And then you're going to say you're going to play a team that's desperate for a win. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're both desperate for wins. But one team excels at home and plays really well when one team excels on their home field because they have a crowd advantage and completely lose that going on the road. We've all played football. We've all played sports before. If you have somebody screaming in your ear when you're trying to make a free throw, it's not fun. You know what I like better? A nice quiet gym at home where I'm used to the rims and nobody's making any noise and I splash that down. It's completely different for Seattle. They have such an advantage at home, and it's apparent when they go on the road, they just don't play as well.
Great points, guys. Hey, we got Pittsburgh-Denver in the later kickoffs on Sunday, 4:30 Eastern kickoff here. Pitt laying 3 with some juice, 46.5 the total. Big man, you want to start us off with Pitt-Denver?
Yeah, this is one of those spots where if I'm, I like Denver. I've always very much liked Denver at home, getting 3, in these spots. But here's the major difference between that team and those teams and this current team. Vance Joseph's the coach. I don't want any part of Denver with him at the helm. This team is not as good defensively as they once were. They're 1-3 against the number at home. Pittsburgh kind of had their, I think, bogey game last week, and surprise, surprise, found a way to get the job done. I really believe this team can get to the Super Bowl. I think they can win the Super Bowl. I think they're slowly becoming that team that we're all we're worried about, the Saints and the Chiefs and all these teams. But don't forget about Pittsburgh. They got plenty of weapons, an improving defense. You look at the latest couple games, their defense has been terrific, giving up only 250 yards a game. I think this number's a bit short. I think a lot of people maybe, people will be on Pittsburgh. That's not going to be any surprise. But Pittsburgh's bogey game, I think, was last week. Right now, with Vance Joseph at the helm, with Case Keenum at the helm, it seems like the same old problems for Denver. Competent quarterback play is a problem. And I just don't think they're going to win much until they get rid of Vance Joseph. So for me, I hate to side with the public side in Pittsburgh, but I got to do it.
Going public side with Pittsburgh. Ian, how are you feeling about Pitt Denver?
This is one of the trickiest but most fascinating, intriguing games to handicap on the NFL board this week because you've got Pittsburgh playing great. They're the better of these two teams. I don't think there's any denial there. But it's not a Pittsburgh spot. It really isn't. I mean, you're talking about a come-from-behind win against a team that knocked you out in the playoffs last year, a game that you looked dead. You looked done. And then all of a sudden you rally back from the dead and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 2016 last week. You're going on the road for a second straight week in that thin air, in that high altitude of Denver. It's not a great spot for Pittsburgh, without a doubt. But Denver did show some signs of life out of their bye week. This looked like a Denver team that was going nowhere, 3-6. How would they respond coming out of the bye week? Well, they responded by beating the LA Chargers outright, 23-22. Last weekend, showing some signs of life. Now, granted, they got outgained in that game heavily. It was the same old mistakes. Phillip Rivers chucking the football into coverage. I mean, it was back to a classic Phillip Rivers mistake-prone football game. And we've seen many of them from him in the past. And the Chargers, for as well as they were playing, you knew a clunker was around the corner. With that Chargers team, they always have that one game where they shit the bed and, whoa, they lost a game you didn't expect them to lose. That was that game against Denver. The question is that a turning point in the season kind of win for Denver? Or is that we rally the troops off a bye, we're facing a division rival, we don't like the Chargers very much, we want to put a dent into their season? Was it that kind of win for Denver? Or is there staying power? Is there something to it? Is it a win they can build off of and get better from? That's going to be the determining factor here in this game. I've got to see Denver do it again before I can believe it. I'm with Big Man here. I would lean Pittsburgh at this price, only laying 3. But keep in mind, Denver in previous home underdog spots only lost by 4 against Kansas City as a home dog. Nothing to be ashamed about there. Only lost by 3 against the LA Rams as a home underdog. Nothing to be ashamed about there, covering the number. And then, of course, I think for home underdogs, that's it. But you look at last week, underdog against the Chargers on the road, they went outright. So, again, in the underdog role, Denver's kind of risen up a bit. I could still only back Pittsburgh at this number with it being 3, but I understand why people situationally would like Denver here.
Donnie, do you think the home dog is worth a look here?
Live this week in Denver. We're going to be live this week because when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road, they ain't impressive. This is not an impressive team away from home, and it's only going to get worse.
They're 4-0 and 3-1 against the spread.
Hold on. Let me explain here. Pittsburgh goes on the road, plays the worst team ever built in NFL history, and ties them in Cleveland 21-21. They go and play the second worst team ever built in the NFL history, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 30-27 in that ball game. They go to Cincinnati, who's a horrific football team in any sense of the word today as well, with a bad record. That game was 21-21 into a 21-21 into an illegal screen, set up the final touchdown to give them the win 28-21. They go on the road, nice win at Baltimore, close one, 23-16. They're down 16-0 versus Jacksonville, who can't get out of their own way and needed a miracle comeback and a flag in the end zone on an interception to pull that game out. That's their road record. Now, let's flip it over to the Denver Broncos and what they like to do. I don't like Vance Joseph as a head coach, but you know what? Mike Tomlin cancels that out. So there's no coaching advantage with these two imbeciles leading their 2 ball clubs. Now, taking a look at what you like to see from Denver at home here, let's take out the last couple of games where you played the Jets. Throw that out the window, and the Arizona Cardinals. Throw that out the window as well. They played Kansas City, the Los Angeles Rams, Kansas City, Houston, and the Chargers. Do you know the scores in those games? Let's go back and take a look. 27-23, they lose in a squeaker to Kansas City. 23-20, lose a squeaker to the Rams. 30-23 on the road at Kansas City. Lose by 2 to Houston and beat the LA Chargers. This team will get down and dirty. And the one thing that you have to like about this football game, Big Ben holds the ball longer than anybody at quarterback. And there's Von Miller waiting for a couple strip sack fumbles in this environment, praying somehow this public raises this line to 3.5. This is the Denver Broncos line, stone cold, and I think they win it outright here.
I like it, Donnie. Great argument. Big Man, any response?
Yeah, listen, I want to make this very clear. I'm all for betting games like this. As far as I hate siding with the public in the NFL. I've actually done very well in going against it, but I don't see it. I think the teams he highlighted on the road, they're not good, but neither are Denver. I mean, Denver's not a good football team either. So
Why is
again,
Denver
I
not?
think
Has anybody played the Rams and Kansas City twice? I mean, their schedule is hellish. I mean,
I
they
hear
played
you.
Been a
at
tough
Baltimore,
schedule for
Kansas
Denver. I
City,
agree
the
there.
Rams, Kansas City, Houston,
I get
Chargers,
it.
and they played them all tough. Like, they're not just going to get busted at home.
Yeah, I don't. Again, and I like these spots for Denver generally, +3 at home. But those are different football teams. I don't have the same. I don't think this defense is as good as it's been before. I think this offensive line is a complete mess. I have no real interest in Denver. I get where you're coming from. As far as a line, this definitely sticks out. But you know, I almost kind of have a hard time, Donnie, 2 weeks in a row fading Pittsburgh. Last week's I thought was stone cold. I think earlier in the week Jacksonville was a dope side, but
Yeah, but
you know,
it's not really fading them though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could see if it was like a bad football team you're going up against, but Denver's MO this year is we don't give a shit how good you are. We are going to kick, fight, claw, and one of the major advantages is where they play in Denver. You know, you might get a little bit. I don't know what the windy. I don't think it's going to be that windy or that overall cold, but that's a major
Donnie,
advantage, especially when you go play Florida down there in the heat. You barely pull it out. You're exhausted. Then you got to go to Denver and play in high altitude the next week.
Yeah, listen, here's the thing. I'm not laying 6.5 or 7, though. I'm laying 3. Here's the thing. I'm also going to make sure it is only Wednesday. Okay, this game doesn't go till Sunday. If this number goes down to 2.5, I think that's indicative of where you should go in this game. Now, if money keeps coming in and you know, this line kind of starts getting back to where it should go, I think the only bettable side here, just because of the line. Donnie makes his point. At this number, it does look like a bit of a trap game, but I think it's in the. I have to see where the line goes. It's a bit early, I think, right now to make a decipher. But I have no real interest at home taking Denver right now. I don't think this team's very good. I think the bogey game for Pittsburgh was last week, and this isn't 6 or 7. It's 3, and Denver. I don't know if they can win this game outright. I don't see it.
Great discussion there, guys. In the NFL, we're up against it time-wise, but we got to get into best bets. And if you're liking the content, guys, please give us the thumbs up. The like button there helps us out. Ian Cameron, follow him on Twitter, @Babano. We got the CFL Grey Cup. He knows the CFL very well. But, Ian, which way you want to go best bet-wise for the roundtable?
Yeah, that was a fun game to talk about, Steelers-Broncos, because it is a fascinating game to handicap. I mean, I'll tell you right now, like I say, I lean Pittsburgh, but it's not their spot at all. I mean, it's Jacksonville to Denver, 2 straight on the road. I don't know, something's uneasy about that game, but it'll be a fascinating one to break down and see how it plays out on Sunday. Well, best bet, we're going to stay in the NFL, Drew, this week for best bet. You know, it's that old saying, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Nobody circles the wagons like me because I'm taking the Buffalo Bills this Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. How do you get up? How do you get off the bus? How do you get up off the mat for the Jacksonville Jaguars after last week? How do you do it after losing that game to the Pittsburgh Penguins? Pittsburgh Steelers, 20-16. The hockey on the brain, yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers. How do you do it? I mean, you had that game in your back pocket. You let it slip away. You're now a team going absolutely nowhere at 3-7 on the season. You're pointing fingers at one another in the locker room. Doug Marone's on the hot seat. A lot of people questioning why you keep sticking with Blake Bortles at the quarterback spot. Now, after a crushing loss, only your 6th loss in a row, you're only 0-6 straight up, 0-4-2 against the spread your last 6 games. Your season's done, finished. Now you got to go up north to nice, cold Buffalo, New York in late November to play the Buffalo Bills, who just happen to be getting Josh Allen at quarterback, returning for this game, who just happen to be coming in off their bye week, who just happen to have some confidence going into their bye week after laying absolute waste to the New York Jets, 41-10. A Buffalo team that I think, knowing McDermott, I think this team's going to play with purpose. Allen's a quarterback that's looking to get better. These reps mean something to him. I think the team gets a spark having the rookie back at the quarterback spot in this game, and they're at home. We've seen the Bills play some relatively decent defense at times this season, particularly at home, and they're catching points against a Jacksonville team that I think could be completely and utterly dead in this football game. Yeah, no problem taking Buffalo, and I think there's a 3.5 out there at Heritage Sports right now. Give me the Buffalo Bills plus 3.5 against Jacksonville. Best bet for the roundtable.
Buffalo +3 in the hook for Ian Cameron. Give him a follow on Twitter at Babano. Jeff, up next, best bets. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau, the big man on campus. Where are you going best bet wise, man?
Yeah, I'm going to go down to college football here. I'm going to go to a game on Saturday, 2:30 Eastern. I'm going to side with Wyoming, -6.5 at New Mexico. Listen, Wyoming, there's so many different things here that I think benefit them here. You look at them just being in win now mode, winning, with pressure. They have one more win to get to a bowl game. You look at the way they won last week. So much great, the comeback and the snow. Vanderwalt came in and was terrific. Nico Evans is questionable, but I'm looking at some of the quotes out of there, and it seems like it was just a sprained ankle. It seems like he'll be back at it this week. This is a huge game. If you know anything about Wyoming football, so many meaningful seniors on this team, so many guys that are from that area, so many guys that love this football team and this community. Bowl is a hell of a football coach. They have a chance to go back to back to back to a bowl game. I think New Mexico is completely – look, they were dead and buried a long time ago, but what is Bob Davies' future there? I think this is just a really poor football team, bad on defense. Wyoming is good. They're strong. They're solid on defense, and their offense has really kind of picked it up lately. Vanderwall, I think, had some real confidence after last week's game. I'm going to go on the road and think that Wyoming can get the job done here, get into a bowl game in great fashion here. I think they win by double digits and beat and put the stake in New Mexico's heart. They've really, last year they destroyed this New Mexico team. This team right now is pretty bad, New Mexico. I'll think they finish out the season on a downer. They've been getting blown out lately. Give me the Cowboys -6.5 against the Lobos.
Good stuff, big man. And Donnie's been hot, so Donnie, you can go last. I'll go UCF -14. I think their defense has improved. They showed it against Cincinnati, McKenzie Milton and company. Obviously, goes without saying they can score some points. I think they will. Short trip on I-4, the war on I-4, USF, UCF. I'm going to go lay it with the UCF Knights. If it's not broken, don't fix it. UCF -14. You can get that at a number of books right now. Donnie, finish this off, man. Follow him on Twitter at RightSideVP. What do you got for best bets, bud?
Yep, if you watch this team at home, every big third down, you're either going to get a or a where we're going again? Sunday night football. Same way we went last week when everybody loved those Minnesota Vikings, and I told you, stop it. Stop the nonsense. Chicago Bears going to beat this football team. Don't even worry about it. Got a little bit close at the end, but let's segue right into this football game. You know who's going to win Sunday night? The Minnesota Vikings. You know who's going to roll Sunday night? The Minnesota Vikings. You know why? It's going to be the healthiest that they've had this football team since opening day. Otherwise, there's a lot of stuff after we go. Because I know, look, everybody in that chat box, everybody watching, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers getting points. Oh my God. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers getting points. Let's go back to the tape and see how good Aaron Rodgers has been this year, especially being on the road. Hey, opening up on the road versus Washington. Washington stinks. Aaron Rodgers, laying points, 31-17. They got busted in that game. They're going to Detroit. They should own Detroit. They got busted in that football game by 8 points. You go out to the Rams. Yeah, hey, look, you played them well. You still took the loss. And, measuring stick game versus New England. Aaron Rodgers getting points again. They got busted by 14. They go to Seattle. They had a lead in that football game against a mediocre Seattle team. Take another one. Minnesota team at home is better than all of those football teams outside of the Rams. They should be able to win this game and win it handily. Kirk Cousins will be healthy in this football game. Cook's healthy in this game. You're going to look at the wide receivers, Thielen and Diggs. You're going to be wide open the entire game. You're going to get a massive amount of pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Don't be surprised with what Minnesota likes to do, that Aaron Rodgers might get one of those injuries again in this football team because he will be under siege. Don't look at Aaron Rodgers. Don't look at the cheeseheads. Don't see Aaron Rodgers getting points. He can win anywhere. He can't win in this environment. This team will be loaded for bear in an absolute must-win game as a home team. Minnesota is a much better team than the Green Bay Packers. And I leave you with this once again. We're going to take it -3, -120. Don't be scared of Aaron Rodgers. Don't do it anymore. He's getting points. Oh, my God, I saw him 5 years ago. Look how great he was. Did you see that throw last Thursday night? Yeah, they lost. I saw the throw. It was great. They lost. They will lose again here. Minnesota trounces this team by 7 or more.
All right, liking it. Minnesota -3, -120 right now. For Donnie Rightside, Ian Cameron, Jeff Nadeau, I'm Drew Martin. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Best of luck with your bets. We'll see you next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.